Okay, here we go. Well, thanks for tuning in this week. My name's Ed Huck, and I've been doing these videos for the last couple of weeks to give everybody an update on what is happening with the real estate market in relation to the COVID-19 pandemic and how it's been affecting the real estate market. This week, as most of you do as well, have all your kiddos at home. So I invited Ethan Huck to help me present this week's stats. Ethan loves math. Ethan kind of grew up in the industry, obviously, since he was a baby. He's been toted along on appointments and showings and helping putting in signs and lock boxes. But Ethan, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I really like playing like Minecraft, and my favorite YouTuber is Beckbro Jack.
Fantastic. What grade are you in, Ethan?
Second grade.
Second grade. And how have you liked getting schooled at home instead of going to school?
A lot.
What do you like?
Way more.
Why do you like staying at home?
Because I get to choose what I do.
Oh, that's interesting. What do you like to choose to do?
I don't know.
What's your favorite subject? You get up in the morning, what's your first thing you'd like to do schoolwork wise?
Art.
Art, of course. Yeah. Everybody loves art. So, well, I thank Ethan for being here. And we're going to dive into this. Let's pull up my sheet here real quick. So we're going to do a quick review of where we've been at in the market here. So again, thanks for everybody for joining. Again, I started doing these probably the middle of March. So I started reviewing the weeks back then. And that's, the schools ended, or they closed the schools in Ohio on the 12th of March. Nothing really started to happen to the real estate market at that point yet. We did review that first week's webinar, how this potential shift in the real estate market is actually way different than the shift we saw back in 2008. So if you're worried about, the shift in the real estate market being anything like that, don't. Go back and watch that video. There's a lot of stats where I showed how the economy was different, the number of homes for sale was different, the interest rates were different, and there's a lot of different factors in what's happening now than what was happening back then. The week of March 27th, the governor did issue the stay-at-home orders, stay-in-place orders. They did make real estate an essential service. The governor realized that so many of the people were actually, in the middle of a sale or in the middle of buying a house, and instead of having people displaced, they made us still, active as far as being able to sell real estate. Of course, we have to abide by all the CDC guidelines when it comes to, the distancing issues. And we've also have a whole bunch of issues set in place for sellers once they do list their house to make sure that we don't have people stumbling into each other during showings, and booties at all the houses, gloves at all the houses, all those kind of things to make sure that we're keeping everybody safe. That's the number one, goal in this whole thing, is making sure we're abiding by the social distancing. Anyway, we did start to see some changes in the real estate market at that point. Interest rates got a little huge fluctuation. They bumped up into the 4s, and then they came back down into the 3s that week. The next week, we saw the stock market go bananas. Went up, went down, went up, went down. That's that first week of April is when we really started to see less homes coming for sale on the market. We did start to see less showings as well that week. And we did see a lot of changes in the lending world. So the lending guidelines really started to change. The week ending April 10th, more and more states were issuing stay-in-place orders. Unemployment, of course, skyrocketed. The stock market was still very volatile. We did finally start to see that first full week of April, real estate kind of start to stabilize. New listings were still down from the first 3 months of March versus first 3 weeks of March versus the first 3 weeks of April. Last week we talked about, in Ohio, we're starting to see the flattening of the curve. Less and less people are getting diagnosed with COVID-19. Unemployment still at record levels, and even last week we saw a huge spike. Obviously, more people applying for unemployment. And a little glimmer of hope, the president and our governor were outlining ideas and ways to slowly start to let us get back to normal. So let's kind of dive into what we've got this week for you. Let me get to a different screen here real quick. All righty, so this chart shows the number of homes for sale, the number of new listings, the number of homes sold, and the number of homes that went under contract. It shows it by quarter, it shows it month over month, and then a new stat that we're able to pull up now is to start looking at where we were for the first 3 weeks of April versus the first 3 weeks of March, and then where we've been at compared to the first 3 months and 24 days worth of 2019 versus the same in 2020. So
we still have less homes for sale the first 4 months of 2020 than 2019. More homes went pending for the first 4 months of 2020 than 2019. And new listings are down for the first 3 weeks of April versus the first 3 weeks of March, 30% and down 40% from 2019. The surprise in the number of homes pending has actually gone up in the last 3 weeks, and more have gone pending year to date than to date in 2019.
So what's that mean, Ethan?
Strong sellers market, less homes for sale, and more buyers.
Yeah, so what we're really seeing here is kind of surprising. I think most realtors and the general public probably think that homes aren't selling, but what this chart really shows is the number of new listings is down, almost 30% when you compare April to March. The shocking part, though, is the number of homes under contract has actually gone up 9%. So it was already a strong seller's market, and now it's making it even a stronger seller's market. The other thing to notice is when you look at number of homes pending for the first almost a little over a quarter of 19 versus the first little over a quarter of 2020, we're up 2.5%. So this would say, even though we've got the stay-in-place orders and less homes are coming in the market, the number of homes that are actually going under contract is actually a little bit up for the first 4 months of 2020 than it was in 2019. So a little bit surprising there. In this chart, we have two different graphs we're looking at. We have sale price versus original listing price. That's the green line. And then the bars are the average consecutive days on the market. So what do we have to see here, Ethan?
You can see that number of days homes on the market also continues to go down, meaning homes are selling faster.
Yep, homes are selling faster, which, again, you would kind of think that wouldn't be the case with all the restrictions and everything we have in place. But even when you look here at the first 3 weeks of March versus first 3 weeks of April, homes are selling 24% faster. Again, which I think is a little bit of a function of our normal spring market. I think it's also a function of interest rates are still incredibly low. A 30-year mortgage, conventional mortgage, is right about 3%. We've never seen that. Even when the rates bottomed out back in like 2011 and 12, we never saw 3% for a 30-year fixed. So even when you look at last year, so 2019 for the first 4 months versus 2020 first 4 months, we're down about 9.5%. So homes are selling 9.5% quicker this first 4 months of 2020 than in 2019. So let's see what's happening with prices. So prices, that's what this graph is. Average asking price is green, average sold price is red. What's going on there, Ethan?
You will notice this graph has the average sold prices for the home is still on the rise versus last year. But when you look at March versus April, the average sell price for the home has slipped a bit.
Yeah, so when you look at this first current year to date versus previous year to date, we're actually up about 9% for the average sale price.
Oh.
The thing I want to keep my eye on, though, is when we compare the first basically 23 days of March versus the first 23 days of this last April, we have slipped a little bit. So I don't know if that's just, a little anomaly, but that's something I'm going to continue to keep my eye on. And that will be a good barometer of paying attention to what is actually happening to prices right now. Lastly, we've got a couple more graphs that show you months worth of inventory. So we've all heard of buyer's market, seller's market, and neutral market. And this graph, I guess, what's this graph show us?
Even though we all have fewer homes hitting the market, when they do, they are selling, which is causing this year to be an even stronger seller's market.
Yeah, so you can see here, current versus, current year versus last year, homes are selling even quicker. So what this means is, when you go back up to the top here, on average, how long is it going to take for our inventory to be gone, to be totally sold out? Right now, we're at about 1 month's worth of inventory. Last spring, we were at 1.4 months worth of inventory. The other interesting thing to keep an eye on, though, is where we at for the last 23 days of March versus last 23 days of April. And that's actually gone down too. So it's really still continuing to be a very strong seller's market. The only caveat I would have to that is that these graphs we have up here are for all price ranges. When you go to homes over 400,000, and I pull those out of those graphs, you will notice that home values, not values, but it's taking longer to sell homes over $400,000. So in the realtor world, if it's more than 3 months worth of inventory, if it's between 3 and 6 months worth of inventory, it's a neutral market. If it's taking less than 3 months to get rid of our inventory, it's a seller's market. So you will see here, last year, over 400,000 was pretty much kind of bouncing in and out of a neutral market, maybe a seller's market, a buyer's market for a month or two, but pretty much staying in that neutral market. And you're continuing to see that too. And what we'll probably see this spring is that number kind of go up, just like it did last year. Homes over 400,000 typically we sell more of those in the spring and summer than we do in the winter. And you'll also notice that here. So it takes a little bit longer to get rid of that inventory in the middle of the winter. So again, that's something I'm going to keep an eye on. So that all being said, does anybody have any questions? Let me pull up the right screens here. Let's see what we have. And Facebook has a little bit of a delay, but let me see if there's any questions on Facebook here. Give me a few more seconds for Facebook to catch up to us that are live streaming here. you have anything else you want to talk about, Ethan? What are you going to do the rest of the day?
Pretty much nothing.
Nothing. Did you do your schoolwork already?
Yeah, that's all done.
You did that already? Fantastic. Fantastic. So it looks like we have no, Mommy just said there's a spelling test later this afternoon.
Oh, yeah.
You forgot about your spelling test. You've been practicing?
I forgot about that.
Yeah. Whose idea was it to wear these shirts and coat?
Mommy.
Yeah, Mommy came up with this idea so we would match. Does that surprise anybody? Anyway, so thanks for watching. If you have any questions, you can always feel free to reach out to me. If anybody's looking for any of these data and graphs, I can always just email it directly to you. And look for us next week. Another thing we're going to do is next Thursday evening at 7, we're going to do a home buyers workshop. We would normally do these at a restaurant, but of course we're not going to be able to do that. So we wanted to, if you know of anybody that is trying to figure out, should they be buying during this pandemic? Should they wait? The pros, the cons, all those kind of questions. We're going to answer all of that next Thursday evening. So look out for that link. It'll be posted up on our website at huckteam.com. It'll also be all over our Facebook pages too. So be safe out there, and we'll see you again in a week.